Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith. This is Paddock Live. And we have got loads of Manchester United stories to get through. But first of all, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Get involved in the chat and the comments as well. Josie.
Hi.
We're going to be talking about Paul Pogba.
Oh, God. What's
I feel like it's 2021 all over again. He's given a little interview, Paul Pogba. Oh, there you go, straight in. Yeah, don't worry about it. No way, Jose. Excellent. Real, loads of thought gone into that one. Jose, if you can talk us through this.
So this is Paul Pogba in a quote that we'll just get onto Jose Mourinho in a second. He's done this interview with Sky Sports News. For anyone who's missed it, spoken about loads of things. Obviously, his time at United being a big one of them, considering we dominated the sort of best years of his career in terms of where he played. Unfortunately, maybe didn't quite do the things that people thought he would or that he maybe could have done. He said, "I'm not a cheater. I'm someone that loves my sport. I love the game. I like to win fairly and people see that. I'm a bad loser, but I'm not a cheater," said all cheaters ever. Pogba on his relationship with Jose Mourinho. "Our relationship was like a boyfriend and girlfriend."
Really?
We'll get into that.
How's that not the main story?
Wasn't Jose married at the time?
Wow, this is a revelation.
We were breaking up and making up all the time. He started great, but he was one of the reasons I went back. I don't know why it turned into a nightmare, but there's a lot of respect from me to him. First of all, thoughts on that? Because we'll get into this next bit in a second here.
Right, it is possible. Right, football fans in general, United fans in general, don't like to think that you can, two things can be true at the same time. Paul Pogba is one of the most naturally gifted footballers I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Right, and I've watched United since the 80s. And I've watched the academy, and I remember seeing him at the academy. I've watched loads of great players, as we all have. I'm not supposed to admit, you have as well. And he is genuinely one of the most talented footballers I've ever laid my eyes on. And his career at United was underwhelming. It didn't achieve what it should have achieved. Some of that is his fault. Some of it was just because United were at the levels that we potentially should have or really should have been. So whilst he was great as a player and his ability, didn't quite live up to the expectation, had some good games, and also didn't cover himself in glory at times with his own actions.
Yeah.
I think his relationship with Jose was a case in point. Now, when he came back from the World Cup, I was so giddy about Pogba coming back from the World Cup. He just won the World Cup. We just finished second, albeit a distant second, to Manchester City. I know we'd lost the FA Cup final, but you think, okay, maybe we can rally and get going. And even though we didn't really go big on in the transfer market, I was hoping that some of the younger players, like, don't forget Marcus and Malacia, were still relatively young, and Pogba, you could step up and we could, do you know what I mean, really make of it. And it was obvious, as soon as he came back, he had a bit of a cob on, and he just wasn't feeling it. He was in a mood with Jose, and they never sorted it out. And I think Pogba made life difficult for Jose towards the end, because there was that bit where he said, he walked past the mix zone and he said, if I speak, I'll get fined.
Yeah.
He didn't need to do that because he'd walked past lots of mix zones without speaking. He could have just not spoken. Yeah. There was a bit where he was made him vice captain, Jose. After the Wolves game, he criticised the tactics, so to take it off him. There was obviously the thing where he posted stuff on social media. You remember that clip of him in training going viral and stuff. Yeah. I think at times it wasn't all Jose being a knobhead. No. There was a part of Pogba being difficult as well, and it was a shame it ended like that, because at one point, that first season with them both in particular, it looked like this was a match made in heaven. It looked like it was going to work out and it was going to deliver a title to United. Yeah,
and it goes back to the talking points we have all the time, but this whole thing of like, oh, the tactics aren't right. It's the tactic. People are obsessed with tactic. Look at this relationship with two human beings. Like, people think that football managers and their players are just this one relationship and it stays the same the whole time, and they either follow the tactics or they don't, and that's the only thing to it. Off and on all the time. They didn't hate each other, they didn't love each other. Eventually maybe it ended on a bad note. But like, these are two human beings that couldn't decide whether they liked each other. Both quite clearly quite volatile, it would seem, both sort of coming back and forth all the time. But these are how relationships work at football clubs. It's not always, oh, I loved my manager the whole time and therefore it was successful. There will be people now, or players who played under Fergie, who for some years of him hated him and some years of him loved him. That will be the case. And we like to think that it's like, oh, Martinez, for instance, came from Ajax with Ten Hag. Therefore, they must get on every single day of the week because these two are like brothers and they're perfect with each other. players aren't always like that, and it can go up and down. And obviously, we could sort of see some of them falling out and stuff. And this quote is a good one because it follows on from the Jose era. So let's get into this. He said, "The year that Jose went and Ollie came in, it was my best season at United. But after the last game, I told Ollie and Ed Woodward that I wanted to leave. I gave my best, but I didn't see the club going upwards." He also said that I tried to make a move, but Ed Woodward blocked it. "I didn't want to play for United anymore, but I had to be professional. Mentally, I wasn't there. Then I got the injuries." So, you know, it all seemed pretty rosy under Ollie, didn't it? Like, that was one thing that he gets credit for all the time.
Is, though,
but obviously, things aren't always like that.
He said it on camera, didn't he? He said he wanted a new challenge. Yeah. At the end of that season, when he was getting interviewed for French TV or whatever it was, he said, you know, "I've had a good season, I've had my best ever season, now I feel like it's time for a new challenge." What amazed me with the Pogba thing is how sort of, what's the right word? Divided everyone became with it.
Yeah.
And he almost became like, if you liked Pogba or you supported him, you didn't see anything wrong with what he did, and you almost denied what he said. I remember having this argument with fans saying he didn't want to be anymore. He does. He's literally said on camera himself, "I don't want to be at Manchester United, I want a new challenge." And people go, no, he don't mean that. Well, why is he saying it then? Of course he means
He's
it.
an adult who's intelligent, and he said it.
He said it. There's nothing, like, fine. If he wants to go, that's okay, but let's not deny reality and make it like, well, he doesn't want to go, he loves United, he wants to stay forever, that's why he came back. No, he doesn't. Let's not forget, he wasn't United born and bred, he came from Le Havre. They were annoyed when we got him off him. Yeah. He stayed for a few years, went to Juve and then came back. There's nothing wrong with his actions during that, that's fine. But let's not pretend that he didn't want to go. He's saying it himself, he wanted to go. The club, at that time, should have cashed in.
Yeah, they should.
And I'm not saying
you got your money back from
I'm not saying he wasn't a tight player. I've just said he's one of the most tight players I've ever seen. If you've got a midfielder who doesn't want to be, or a player, it doesn't matter what position he plays, doesn't want to be there, he's willing to go on camera and say he doesn't want to be there, tells the executive vice chairman, tells the manager, has already had a bit of a to-do with the previous manager, you know he's temperamental, you know he's sort of one of those players who can be slightly emotional or whatever, why would you keep him against his will? Why would you think, well, no, you're staying and we're going to make this... I understand that if you don't get any offers for him at all, but we didn't even try. And we could have, and with a proper director of football, he'd have gone. We'd have got on the phone and we'd have gone to someone, maybe back to Italy or whatever, go, "Look, Pogba's here, everything's not great, you can have him for 50 million or whatever, but you know what I mean, like, let's do a deal." That could have happened, maybe a bit more than 50, I don't know, but we didn't. We just kept him, and from 2019, the summer of 2019, till he left in, 2022?
Yeah.
In all honesty, there was some good moments from Paul Pogba, there was some good spells, but did you really get the best out of him in those 3 years?
No.
Was there anything there where you say, well, I'm glad we didn't get rid of him? Probably not, because he didn't achieve with his career what he should have in those 3 years, and United didn't win out in those 3 years. I know we finished second once under Ollie, but we didn't win anything.
No, it is weird, isn't it? And they probably did the wrong thing with Pogba, and it's the sort of thing that you can maybe see this isn't quite going the way we wanted it to. He's worth a lot of money. He's a great player. Let's get him out while we can. But then on the other hand, part of you think of some of the stories about Wayne Rooney over the years, for instance. He, in 2010, or I think it was 2010, wasn't it, where he looked like he might leave and that he wanted to leave. And we kept him, and he went on to do brilliant things for United after that. So I wonder how often players throw their toys out the pram and say they want to leave and that's it, I'm done. But we don't hear about it, or they go back and then they go on to do great things. I suppose the difference would be we weren't in a position to sort of prove him wrong by keeping him, if you know what I mean. Like, the club isn't going anywhere. Right, watch this. We didn't get to do that, and we were never going to be able to do that with Paul Pogba. We couldn't really say, no, actually, we're going to do this, and this, and win the league. I think it always felt like under Solskjaer, I know we finished second and third, and there was that spell, but it didn't truly feel like we were going for it properly to win a title. So maybe there is a difference there, but I don't know, there's just so much shit going on with football, isn't there? Like, all the time behind the scenes, your big players, your best players, the most expensive player in the world-ish when we bought him, and it's like he wants to leave and he's coming out and saying it, and then you have all the stuff with Sancho and Ronaldo keeps digging and chipping and all this sort of stuff. Like, it's just a lot of drama, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
It is a lot of drama, and with Pogba that seems to follow him around a little bit. There was that time when Pep said he got offered Pogba by Raiola, and now, I'm not saying Pep Guardiola's a bastion of moral integrity, but it would be a weird thing to lie about.
I don't think he's lying about that.
And yeah, why make that up about that one player and never say it about anyone else? And why didn't Pogba deny it? If you remember when he got asked about it, he didn't deny it. And it sounds like something Real would probably do. He's not happy at United. Do you want him? Can we make a move happen? So it was a shame with Pogba. When we signed him, I couldn't have been more excited. I bought into it all. I thought, we've got him back. The player that I saw in that academy that absolutely saw it up. Obviously went to Juve, did well. This is going to be great. First season, pretty solid. I won a couple of trophies, but then that was all he won. We didn't win anything else, and it's such a shame for a multitude of reasons. Let's get into some of the comments, and then we'll move on. Patrick Cassidy has been a member of the academy for 46 months, says, been around Europe for the past 2 weeks. You've helped me with long train journeys. Did you have higher hopes for Falcao or Cavani when they joined? Joseph?
Falcao.
100%
Yeah,
I
I thought
agree.
we were getting one of the best strikers in the world when he came.
What that man just said.
Yeah.
Jed's Dead Baby says, Pogba was brought to be Cantona, but he's no Cantona. Few people can bear the weight of the shirt, which is a serious problem, and he wasn't one of them. He was definitely brought as some sort of, not about Cantona, but like I get that idea of like it was a marquee signing, wasn't it?
Yeah, massively.
Do you know what I mean? Was it Mkhitaryan and Zlatan and him in that same summer, and he was the one that cost the most money. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Abhinav Verma says, Ed Woodward is a wallet. I'll name this podcast later. Says there's a reason that Fergie didn't fancy him. Mick Holland says, hold me, Jay, says that all the time. Woes says it's Pogba's fault that we are relegation for the team, and then a laughing emoji. Please hit that like button, please, people. Mahamanui Kareem says, Jay, in your eyes, is Pogba more talented than King Eric? King Eric, the thing with King Eric, it wasn't just his footballing ability.
No.
It was his aura. It was his presence. It was his ability in the biggest of the big games to come up, and he was your talisman. He was the player you looked at and went, he's going to win us this game, and he invariably did. So it's not necessarily about talent. I think you could look at a few strikers and, if we're being brutally honest, say in terms of talent, they might have the edge on Eric Cantona. He might not be the most talented striker that Manchester United have ever had. Is he the most iconic? Has he had the best presence or the biggest presence I've ever seen from a footballer in my lifetime? Yeah, he has. I think he has all those things. Yeah. I think there was something different about Eric Cantona, and the fact that when he was on that pitch, you always felt like you were going to win a football match.
In terms of their physical and technical gifts, there are. I think you sort of hit a limit at some point of what the sort of natural ability barrier is. Maybe Messi's the one that sort of punctured through that and gone above and beyond. But Paul Pogba is as physically and technically gifted as any footballer I've ever seen. Like up there with Ronaldo, Rooney. I mean, I don't even know who else you want to mention in that conversation. But like he's like when you look at the list of things that he's got going for him, 6'3", physically very strong, not particularly quick, but certainly not slow either. Can tackle, one of the best passes you'll ever see. Can shoot from range. Is good in the air. Has got the technical skills and touches and step overs and the sort of the intelligence of when he plays passes and where he plays passes. There are very few people I've ever seen that are as technically gifted or more than him. I think he's almost at the limit of, you can't be that size and that technical. Like, it just doesn't, like Zlatan's in that same ballpark of just, you can't be 6'5" and bring the ball out of the air the way Zlatan does. And yet, these rare people exist, and he's a rare specimen completely, I think, Paul Pogba. He doesn't get much more of an anomaly than him, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a shame. The injuries he mentions, that did for him. He missed a lot of important games, missed big chunks of the season when it looked like we were going to push towards a title, or a title challenge, a proper one under Ole, and then he was out when we needed him most. And also as well, there were a few games where his decision making went to pot, and that cost him. And I think towards the end, that last season, it almost felt like the entire season was a bit of a write-off for him. Yeah, it did, because the red card. I know we were already. I mean, the Liverpool game summed up what we're 4-0 down. He's not even on the starting, which is says a lot, doesn't it? Then he comes on and gets a red card. Then you had towards the end of that was obviously the last season. The season before, where you had was it the Europa where he came off? He had not as people saying, oh, he didn't fancy it. Yeah. There was a game, I think Anfield, his last game. There was fans turning on him again. He picks up a knock, and people saying, did he just sort of lost, I don't know if you call it confidence or whatever, I don't know, it just became very, very messy towards the end there with Paul Pogba. Witterbird says, leaks, unhappy players, FFP and Pogba, manager under threat, Sir Alex Ferguson back as manager, or Ole. What else goes on the rumour bingo sheets? It's boring now. It does feel like we're sort of going through this cycle over and over again. Make sure you are hitting that like button, please, people. We'll see what happens with Pogba. It's been a bit of a shame. I've also, whether you're Pogba's biggest fan or not, it's not nice when you're like, his brother tried to kidnap him, whatever, and stuff like that. It's just all very bizarre and odd and a bit nasty. Let's move on.
Yes, so this is a sort of the building block to a further conversation. We've got to start, obviously, mention Es kommt nach Haus. I'm coming to your house?
It's coming home.
It's coming home. That was the headline in The Sun today.
Are we quoting the fucking Sun now?
Well,
is that what we've come to? Everyone involved is sacked.
Interesting. Very interesting. The FA unveiled Tuchel to the media at a press conference on Wednesday, and a reporter asked him about United's interest. Why did you choose England over United, who you've been strongly linked with? The journalist asked before Tuchel interjected, which would also have been in England. What? Tuchel then added, because the idea...
True Ronnie sketch?
I don't understand that.
What's going on there?
Because the idea and the way John and Mark presented it was very fast, very exciting, very confidential, very trustful
very
and
mindful,
straightforward.
Very demure,
This
very
was,
cutesy.
That was basically a decision for this job and not a decision for anything else. You will understand I will not comment on individual players today, and for sure not comment on any other clubs. This section of words that I'm reading here is fucking bonkers, isn't it? Am I being a knob? Because the idea and the way John and Mark presented it was very fast, very exciting, and very confidential. He was allured by the confidentiality of it all. Oh, it's a little secret, is it? My dirty little English secret. Oh, I can't help but take the job then. What do you mean? Like how confidential it was brought him in. Very trustful and very straightforward. What? What does very exciting and very confidential mean?
How's your German?
Shit.
Well, his English might not be.
But but his English is good.
Yeah, but it might, like, very confidential. He might be trying to say something slightly different. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it might. The word confidential.
Okay.
Might be be wrong.
So fair enough.
Do you know what I mean?
Let's look at the whole body of what he's saying then.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It was very fast, very exciting, very confidential, very trustful and straightforward.
As in, like
the deal was done. There was no arguing. It was like we got the deal done. I was happy with the way it went. It was all very quick, straightforward, and there was no leaks. There was no sort of press thing.
Happy with how
Let's
it went.
not forget when did he sign the deal? Like 8th of October, wasn't it? So I know it's not a lot of time, but it's been a few days where.
So it was very confidential.
That's maybe I mean, listen.
And also the way it was leaked publicly with the United, maybe that's what it means.
Yeah, like I get it. I'm not disagreeing with it. It is worded a little bit strangely, but I'm always slightly sympathetic to foreign managers or players when they speak, because that might be slightly, not the perfect word for us.
For what he meant.
Yeah, what he meant. Because if you watched the interview he did on Sky, he asked for a word, didn't he?
Yes.
When he was asked the question, he said, what does that word mean?
It was scrutiny, I think.
Yeah, he said, what does scrutiny mean? Now, obviously, everyone knows what fucking scrutiny is. But I wouldn't know what scrutiny is in German. No. I know his English is, very good, and you're right, it is. But there will be certain words that he might not get. So I'm guessing
So we think that from this we can take that he didn't like how public United's interest was in him, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. That's not a ridiculous stretch. I mean, there's so many different reasons why you might fancy this other than United. It's not like you don't know what quite has gone on in terms of negotiations when it's transfers and things like that. Obviously, he's got control over who he picks for England. Yeah. He's got control of the players that he wants. Anyone who's eligible, you'd imagine he can have. Yeah. Right? At United, you don't know what's going on with transfers. Yeah. You don't know what he was told on that front, how that was going to work. He might not have liked that part of it. There is an element when you're managing at an international level as well where it's not quite as full-time as club management.
Yeah.
There is, I know I'm not saying it's not a full-time job, obviously it is, but you're not constantly in training every day.
You can do the odd National Trust property on a weekend.
You can go and do your Duke of Edinburgh if you want. Do you know what I mean?
Perfect.
There's that. Like, United or any other club, you're in training every day, you're looking at, you're analysing stuff, it's just non-stop. Like, with England, you might spend the day, I don't know, doing the garden.
Well, looking at him and based on what you know about him, what do you think his hobby is on the side that he now gets to put like 50 hours a month into if he wants to? What do you think it is? I can imagine him, little eyepiece.
Taxidermy.
That's not bad actually, taxidermy. Yeah. I'm thinking painting little lead figurines. 100 Years' War. So I mean, I think he's into battle reenactment figurines.
reckon?
Yeah, I could see that. The other one was in the basement. Thomas, dinner's ready.
Yeah.
Painting it, tiny little, the most miniature things ever.
Yeah.
I think he loves that, and then he smashes them all to bits.
Really?
Yeah, because he got a bit
Fair
of a temper, hasn't he? What do you think?
I just think he's mad into coasters.
What, as in the thing that mugs go on?
Yeah, I reckon he's got like a coaster collection that's the envy of Western
could.
Europe.
Like woolen ones.
Yeah.
Ones
like,
from
when
like...
you go out of his house,
yeah.
he's just boring you to death. He's got some coasters I want to show you.
Put your mug on
And
that.
you're like, Thomas, man, Jesus Christ, there's
Yeah.
an England game on, shouldn't you be there? Oh, come and have a look,
Did I ever tell you?
Just been delivered.
When you say there's an England game on, shouldn't you be
Yeah.
there? Did I ever tell you the Jack Charlton story?
No.
So Jack Charlton, obviously Bobby Charlton's brother, for anyone who didn't know, but I'm sure everyone does. He used to manage, was it Forest or Wednesday he managed? I think it was Sheffield Wednesday. I think it was...
Is Newcastle manager one of
Did he also managed Sheffield Wednesday, I think.
Right, okay.
Maybe we can double check that behind the camera.
Well, I do have access to the internet.
Okay, of course, yeah. Basically, he was managing this club, whoever it was. I think it was either Forest or Wednesday. I know you're just checking there.
Let's have a look. I'm going to say it was Wednesday.
Yeah, okay.
In between managing Middlesbrough, by the
Yeah.
way. Middlesbrough, Sheffield Wednesday, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Republic of Ireland.
So he was managing Sheffield Wednesday, and let's just say he was quite a hands-off manager, where he wouldn't really take training every day. Like, managers used to be more like that, didn't they?
Yeah.
And one time, apparently, he found out that Sheffield Wednesday were playing because he heard the game on the radio in his car. He'd just been out for the day.
I've heard this story.
And he heard Sheffield Wednesday were playing on the car radio. He was like, fuck, I should probably be there. And drove to the game. And just got there at like half time or whatever because he just found out they were playing because they were on the radio. Oh, I put the radio on, what's on? My club! So yeah, maybe he was slightly hands-off as a manager, but I don't think Tuchel is quite that hands-off with England, is he? He should probably be putting a few more hours in than Jack Charlton did at Wednesday.
That's absolutely outstanding.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? So yeah, Thomas Tuchel, that's the grounding for all this. Just quickly, did you want him at United? Were Ten Hag to be sacked? Would he have been your first choice?
If Ten Hag would have been sacked, I wouldn't have been against Tuchel coming in.
You were more in favour of him?
Yeah, I think of all the managers mentioned, he was probably the one that ticked the most boxes. Premier League experience, won a Champions League, still relatively young. He's not past it by any stretch of the imagination. Managed at a big club, been at Bayern Munich, don't get much bigger than that.
Yep.
So he's not going to go, oh, United, I can't cope. But I'm not losing any sleep over the fact he's gone. Let's get into some comments, excuse me. Phobo Tacoman, sorry, it says, Jack Charlton, honorary Irish legend. Heaven Soul says, lol, oh Jackie boy. Soka, aka the Devil, Pogba was a waste of money. He barely had a dozen very good games for United.
I'd argue with that. I do think he probably was a waste of money overall, but he had more than a dozen good games for United. I think he had a lot of good games.
This from Pecky. Pecky says, actually, he might be the sort of guy who recently bought an acoustic guitar and has started writing really deep songs.
Oh yeah,
you can imagine, can't you?
People getting to singing in their 50s.
Yeah, I hate all that.
Yeah, me too. Give it up. Do it young or don't do it at all. Isn't it weird that almost none of the best music of all time has been written by people outside of their 20s? How mental is that?
I beg to differ.
But do you know what I mean though? Music is a young person's game. For the most part. Obviously there are artists who were big in their 20s continue to put out successful stuff.
Yeah.
But like most artists' biggest and best work happened when they were basically a glorified child.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Mad, isn't it? Like the Beatles, I think when they split up, George Harrison was 28.
Really?
Something like that, yeah.
That's mad, that, isn't it?
Crazy. Anyway,
You know what I mean?
should we move on to our next story?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because this is the sort of the extension of this. Here we go. You're a wizard, Howie. Potter. Howie. I don't mind it. I actually don't mind that. United have turned their attention to two English managers. Oh no.
That was what, sorry.
I hadn't seen
I was
that.
distracted because
Sorry.
Eddie Howe looks like he's got gangrene. And, I don't know, Graham Potter. So it's Hagrid and Harry Potter, yeah?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Although
See,
why is it that way around then?
Yeah.
Why is the one whose surname is Potter?
Hagrid.
Hagrid.
For the Howie to work.
Because it's sort of but the problem with where we've backed ourselves into here is that you've made the person who's Harry Potter not have the surname Potter.
I know.
You know?
But then if you look, he's turned it off. Look, he's turned it off. He's turned it off.
If you know, like you're saying you know, like you did it deliberately.
But here's the thing, Jay. Because but he's kind of right, because if it's the other way around, and Howie is Hagrid, that doesn't work either, does it? Because the quote "You're a wizard, Harry" is Hagrid talking to Harry. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
But don't put it back on now. Make your mind up. Let me read this story. While the under pressure Erik ten Hag is still at the helm, the club's hierarchy will continue to look for potential candidates. Howe and Potter are both admired by the Red Devils, with the latter keen to get back into management after being sacked by the Blues in April 2023. He would be a more gettable target, as the cost and difficulty of getting Howe, who is fondly thought of due to his positive work with younger players, out of his Newcastle contract is seen as a stumbling block. Late last month, former Brighton head coach Potter said he was open to anything, following links with United and England. Thoughts? That used to be your Tinder bio for a while, didn't it?
Open to anything. Grinder, get it right.
Sorry, yeah, of course. All the apps.
Yeah, love all the apps, mate. Love them. This is massively underwhelming, both of them to me. Like, Eddie Howe's done a decent job at Newcastle, was okay at Bournemouth. I've not seen anything in his CV or about him in particular that makes me think he's the next Manchester United manager.
No.
Graham Potter did well at Brighton, got sacked at Chelsea, has never won out.
Yeah.
Like, no. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those appointments where you've got to convince yourself this is going to work. It's another Ralph Ragnick, where I have to get told why I'm too thick to understand that actually this is a great appointment because he invented the fucking Gegenpress. All right, soz. It'd be like, it could work out, but I don't see it. No. I want to see a manager come in and you think, this guy could go up against Arteta and Pep and maybe get the better of him. And with these two, I just don't see it happening. I know that Pep and Arteta are obviously top managers, and you're not going to get many managers come in and go, they're better than them. I'm not saying that. Like, Erik ten Hag can go toe-to-toe with Pep and get a result. He did it in the FA Cup final. You want someone who's got it in him and who's got it on the CV, that they have won things. They have gone far in the Champions League. They have done stuff where you go, okay, that's a guy who's, Tuchel, for all his faults, went toe-to-toe with Pep and won a trophy in the Champions League final. Yeah. All right, we can get into a further discussion about how Pep helps him by dropping certain midfielders, but let's not. So, there is an element of that. With Potter and Eddie Howe, it's massively underwhelming. And also, I don't see Eddie Howe leaving Newcastle.
No. And we can't have Jason Tindall as our assistant manager. You think he gets memed now? Imagine him being a United assistant manager, just shaking everyone's hand first and coming out and doing stuff on a mic all the time.
No, is that what he does?
That's the whole thing with him, wasn't it, Ethan?
Do you like Jason Tindall?
Jason, no, because there was a whole joke, and it started as like a funny little joke on Twitter that Jason Tindall loves being the centre of attention. He thinks it's all his show. And then there was loads of clips of him like shaking the opposition manager's hand before Howe got there, and like going on the pitch and talking to other players like he thinks he's part of the first team basically. And then it became a bit of a meme, and more clips would come out, and then there's an interview with Jason Tindall where he gets asked about it, and he's like weirdly arsey about it. Like,
really?
He's sort of like, I mean, it's all a joke and everything, but obviously, so it's not quite. Some people go a bit far with these things, and he could have just laughed it off and be like, oh yeah, it's silly, and yeah, it's funny, and yeah, of course, yeah, I want it all about me. And instead, he's just got enough of a sort of a whiff of he's offended by this, that it almost makes it worse for him rather than making it better. He could be laughing it off, and instead he's just sort of addressing it slightly too strictly.
What do you say, Eve?
Mad Dog Tindall.
Don't
just say Mad Dog Tindall.
Is that his nickname? Yeah. Really? Did he used to play for you lot?
No.
Where did he play? Bournemouth. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, you can keep your Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall combination.
We don't need either of these, do we?
No, we don't. Right. That's not going to fill anyone with confidence. No. And you're going to have to do that thing where you get behind him because they're Manchester United new manager, and that's what we do. We'll get behind him, we'll back him, and they might even get a few good results. Yeah. And then when the wheels come off, everyone is going to look at the CV, just as they did with Ollie, and go, that CV tells you straight away he ain't good enough. He got relegated with Bournemouth. He got Brighton to 16th. What did he fucking do? It ain't going to happen.
No. Absolutely not. Yeah. Next, what we got? Here we go.
It's an answer the phone. Yes. Talk us through this because
he looks a bit like Gru from Despicable Me on that picture, doesn't he?
I'm glad we're talking about this because it doesn't happen very often, Joseph. But I made a bit of a blunder this morning in my news. What? So these long hours, 13-hour shifts and that. Because this was like the story that I wanted to get into, but I had two Zidane stories and I couldn't find this one on my computer on the live. So I did the other one, which didn't back up the point I was trying to get across.
Okay.
So I'll let you explain, and then I'll explain what I'm on
So
about.
here we go. This one's out of the mirror, and it says that Blanc, Ineos' CEO of sport, continues to keep in touch with Zidane amid talk of him taking
That's
the
quite
United
good,
job.
by the way, Zidane to the phone.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
Yeah.
The Frenchman has been out of work since he left Real Madrid for the second time. He stopped working with Los Blancos in May 2021, and despite talk of a return, he has remained. Sorry, and despite despite talk of a return, has remained on the sidelines. Following last week's 7-hour meeting in London, it's understood that a lack of quality available coaches was a factor in their decision to stand by Erik ten Hag. Ineos are admirers of Zidane, and they intend to keep that connection open should there be a change to their own situation. He's not managed a club in pushing 3.5 years.
There was someone said it in the chat this morning when I was talking about this, because this was the sort of the hook for me on this story was this idea that he's still in touch with Ineos.
Yeah.
That there's this conversation is still going, because we have these rumours, don't we, that Gareth Southgate is liked by Ineos.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're having a conversation with a manager who's got a CV like Zidane, then there's every reason to think you might look at him one day and think, is he a potential manager? The flip side to that is, apparently he's not keen on coming to United. He doesn't speak English, which doesn't mean, I mentioned this morning, doesn't mean the end of everything. Pochettino didn't speak English, Bielsa didn't speak English. I know Pochettino obviously learned it eventually, but you can come to, Mancini didn't speak it like very well, and obviously learned it when he got here. You can come to England without speaking English and still succeed. There's no indication Zidane fancies the United job.
No.
It has been a few years, and as someone said this morning, it looks and feels like he might be waiting for the France job.
Yeah.
And that would be ideal for him, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because he's an absolute uber icon in France.
Maybe the biggest ever.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I think he's just,
I think he probably is, isn't he?
I think they even respected him when he got sent off in the World Cup final.
Yeah,
They
they
love
do.
him that much.
Yeah.
I don't think they turned on him then.
Would he be France's biggest player ever? He probably is, isn't he? I know they've got some good
I know
ones.
we're going to stand here because we love him and say Eric Cantona, but in all honesty,
But he didn't do a lot for the
No,
national team,
no,
did he? I
he
mean, there's
didn't.
Henry, obviously, Platini.
no.
Who
You
else
see,
is there?
the thing like Henry, it fizzled out a little bit for him in
Yeah.
France, didn't it? It didn't end like, I know you said we got sent off in his last game or whatever, but
Yeah.
Zidane didn't just sort of grab that team by the scruff of the neck and drag them to a World Cup final. He was basically picking the team.
Yeah.
Because Domenech was basing his tactics on star signs, was just basically shoved aside by the likes of, I think, was it Zidane and Vieira and other Thuram and
maybe.
players like that
Yeah.
who just went, right, you can fuck off because you're an idiot. We'll pick the team, just shut up and stay out of the way. And then obviously got to the final and the rest is history. But yeah, I think that would be a sort of logical move for all concerned. I don't know what Deschamps' future is. I don't know whether Deschamps is going to move on.
I think he's
soon.
going to do one more tournament, I think.
Yeah. Where do you stand on Zidane? Because Steve has this theory that he weren't all that.
Well,
So Steve says it's mainly on international football that he's got this reputation.
Oh, as
And
a
the
player?
international, yeah, and the
I mean,
international
he did-
football
he did-
doesn't tell you the full story because, a lot of the time you're in these tournaments where you might play, 3 good teams and 2 shit ones. Or
yeah,
whatever.
I trust Roy Keane in saying that he was the hardest midfielder ever played against.
You trust Roy Keane over Stephen Houser?
A little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because Roy Keane says that he couldn't get near him, didn't he? That he's quick, his touch was... He's got a bit of the Paul Pogba's about him, obviously more accomplished, did more things with it. But that kind of like, what is he, 6 foot, 6'2"? He's a big guy, and yet he's got this immaculate touch, skillful, sort of dances across the pitch, and yet he's hard and physical as well.
There's a bit in the game against Juve in the Stade d'Alpe where Roy Keane, he does like 2 tackles in succession where he takes out Zidane, Deschamps and Davids, like all 3 of them in like the space of 5 seconds. It's unreal. Like, it's just like him against them all at one point and he's winning.
So
like, it's just that performance. If you watch that game, Beckham probably has the better game, but it's just what Keane does, especially after that yellow card, and especially against that midfield trio that have a bit of everything.
Yeah,
that
unbelievable.
Got steel and skill and everything, and Keano's just let's have it.
Yeah.
And he comes out the victorious. So yeah,
As a manager, I think it's a different proposition because it's hard to know where the line is where he only did what he did because he had the team that he had, and he didn't win that La Decima with them. He came in after they'd already started winning Champions Leagues and obviously took that to the next level and continued to win it. But not every manager can just be successful with great players. There's different types of managers. Like, if you want a manager that's going to take you from 16th in the league to challenging for the Champions League or whatever, you might go for someone like a David Moyes or whatever. Doesn't mean he's the best manager in the league, but he's winning trophies with West Ham. He took Everton to the precipice of Champions League football, like 5th and 6th and 4th year after year after year. And look what's happened to them since. Like, it's not easy to do that job, but it's also not easy to manage Ozil and Benzema and Bale and Ronaldo and Ramos and Varane and Carvajal and Marcelo and all these players that he had to manage. That's not easy either. So I do think he's obviously a phenomenal manager, and this whole thing of he got lucky that he managed this great team. There's been plenty of great teams that didn't win much, and to win 3 Champions Leagues in a row, he's clearly got something about him, and whether it is his aura as a player and a person, whether that's gone into it, so what? He still did it.
You make a great point, because look at Ancelotti. Ancelotti with Real Madrid is a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
And Ancelotti in the Premier League, he's had success in the Premier League, won it with the title with Chelsea. He's also had seasons in the Premier League where you look at him and you go, okay, he's a good manager, but he's not able to turn this Everton team into, I know they did well initially, but then they fell off a bit, didn't they?
Massively, yeah.
And, he's not able to get any team and make them amazing. But if you give him an amazing team, he'll win a Champions League with them because he knows how to handle them. He's got the respect of them. Yeah. He knows he can almost get out of the way. Sometimes a manager like that just has to go, right, there you go, just fucking get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need a Pep Guardiola who's constantly, doing things. It doesn't need that, necessarily that master tactician with a team like that. It just needs someone who can make everyone comfortable and happy and get them in the right position and just let them get on with it. Yeah. And there was an element of that with Zidane. Obviously, the aura as well. If he says something, you're going to listen to him. If you're at Real Madrid and you've got an ego, you're still going to respect someone like Zinedine Zidane, who's won the lot and is also an icon at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, listen, if Zidane came, we'd all be buzzing because it's Zinedine Zidane. But I don't think he will, to be honest with you. I think this is...
I don't think he will.
I've just looked, right. There's a couple of people... Sorry, I've just lost my signal here. I think there was it, I'll name this podcast later, gifted a Stretford Paddock membership, and Witterbird as well, gifted a Stretford Paddock membership. Thank you to both of you. Thank you to your support for this channel. Appreciate it. Any more?
Yes, Tyrell Malacia. What we got? Chip on Tyrell's shoulder. And it's a bag of Tyrell's crisps.
What's this?
Well, he's going to have pressure when he comes back, I think, because he's not played for so long.
What's that got to do with him having a chip on his shoulder?
Interesting point. Yeah.
He's going to have pressure on him when he comes back, right? Okay. So why has he got a chip on his shoulder?
That's the saying.
That's the saying?
Yeah.
Right. It's also a saying that's completely irrelevant to any point we're making, though, isn't it?
His name's Tyrell, and it's similar to Tyrrell's. And
right.
Chip on his shoulder.
But why would he have a chip on his shoulder?
Get some chips. Well, maybe because maybe he's pissed off. Maybe he's annoyed at his injuries. Maybe he's like, oh fucking, I hate this. I hate footy. It's almost there.
Do you think?
Do you know what I like? I like this. I like the picture. I like a bucket of sweet chilli and red pepper Tyrells.
It's not. Someone's pointed out in the chat, there are connotations with saying some people have chips on the shoulder.
Is there?
Yes.
What, racist ones?
Yes.
Oh.
So,
I don't know that.
Probably not the best joke we've made on this channel. I think it was completely unintentional, but I don't think he will have a chip on his shoulder. However, you can talk us through this story.
Let's do it. Tyrell Malacia is nearing a return to Manchester United. Full stop. According to insiders, Malacia is aiming for a quick return to the pitch. I mean, can I stop you there? Too late for that, mate. You've been out for 18 months. There is no quick return to the pitch. He's been gone for the longest anyone's ever been injured. Quick return is off the cards. Tyrell is already training fully with the group of players. Now he seems to be quickly becoming match fit. United are cautious with Malacia, but he should be playing again in early November or even at the end of this month. That would put an end to a difficult period. He's been sidelined since July 2023, which is so long, isn't it? Let's be honest. Malacia, who had a good first season under manager Erik ten Hag, recently returned to Manchester United's training ground to loud applause. What are you laughing at?
What is going on with this football club, man? I can't cope.
Now he can fully focus on his life as a footballer and put to an end a difficult period. What life was he focusing on before, do you think?
I don't like everything about this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, Malacia's aiming for a quick return. Well, that ship sailed in fucking August 2023, I'm afraid, son. Do you know what I mean? Like, once we got past that, you weren't having a quick return. No disrespect to the kid.
You're back quick. You haven't been gone pushing 2 years. what is it, a year and 6
We were
months?
still in the European Union when he left. It's a fucking joke. Like, that's gone. Then you've got this nonsense at the end, like he just landed the plane. He came back to loud applause.
Yeah.
What? Like, come on, man. What is going on here with all this? I worry about Malacia. I hope he comes back the player he was. My issue with Malacia is this has been so long. It's when you start looking at it as career threatening.
Yeah.
Anything over a year is career. You worry.
Especially when it's not just one injury.
Yeah,
It's
and you're like, is he going to come back? I'm getting Owen Hargreaves vibes here.
Yeah.
Also, as well, if I'm going to be brutally honest, and I like Malacia, I think he's a good player and a good personality. He seems like a happy guy who always gives his all. For me, he's not an 8 out of 10 player. He's not someone who was amazing. He was good, solid, 7 out of 10. Now, if he's lost a little bit, if he's lost a bit of pace, or if he's lost something, that can sort of make you not quite good enough to play for Manchester United. And I hate to say that because I hope I'm wrong, but let's be honest, we're not pretending. Then that is my concern with Tyrone Malacia. So I hope he does come back. I hope we do see him back to his best. But I do have sort of concerns.
Me too.
I'm going to get in some of the chat, but go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think as well with him is, one thing that he's very good at is he seems to be very likeable. And like you saw pictures of him and Rashford on holiday together just a few months after they'd met. I don't know whether that's Rashford being a more sort of senior player, taking him under his wing, or he seems like a nice bloke. He always seems quite sort of happy and he seems like a good vibe to be around. And like I said, Rashford was very enamoured with him and they seem to be good mates. That's a good thing to have in the squad. The other thing as well, it allows Luke Shaw to be rested. Yeah. Like Luke Shaw played, 45 games this season that Malacia arrived, and I think part of that is because you had a not world class but a decent understudy there who can play most games that Luke Shaw isn't available for, and not and you can limit the workload on Luke Shaw, who's injury prone himself. Like I don't think it's a coincidence that United didn't have any proper left backs last season or backups, and Luke Shaw had a terribly injury ravaged season. I think if we'd have had Malacia fit for more of last season, we probably would have seen more games out of Luke Shaw as well. So them both coming back kind of works together, and I can't wait for them both to come back personally.
No, I agree. Graham Sharkey, this was a few minutes ago, says, wrap this up, Jay. Joe and the rest of the baseball furies are stopping that lot, getting back to Coney Island tonight after the show. Very good reference there. Have you ever seen The Warriors?
No.
It's a class film, that. It really is. Also, people in the chat have said this, and I've seen this on Twitter, and I don't think we've got anything on it, but there's this rumour going around that Kobbie Mainoo's out for 4 weeks. Can we have a look at that as we move on? Just see if there's anything on it. I think there's a guy that's tweeted it who's quite reliable, who sort of knows his stuff, doesn't have a big following, but has been reliable with injury stuff in the past. Right. I think he said that Kobbie Mainoo's out for 4 weeks. I don't want to just speculate though. Can we see if we can get that stood up?
I mean, it looked like a hamstring injury, did it look like, when he walked off? I mean, there's clearly something wrong, isn't there? He went off with an injury. He didn't go to England. You know, if it's any sort of muscle injury, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks minimum, isn't it?
I mentioned this in my news this morning, that Ugarte went off for Uruguay, didn't he? We don't know if that was just... I think he signalled to the bench that there was an issue. He came off, I think, after 82 minutes. So we'll have to try and find out what is going on. But if... I know it's big ifs, and I don't feel negative, but if we are missing Ugarte and Mainoo, then that is an issue.
It's going to be Casemiro and Eriksen, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
2022 all over again. Should we move on to our next story? This is another player, much like Paul Pogba, who is French and no longer plays for Manchester United. But let's have a look. Como on over Varane.
That's a proper Friday afternoon pun, innit? R4 on a Friday.
Yeah.
Have you fucking pun? Come on over, just fuck off.
It's the sort of joke that Frank
know.
Sinatra would have made, and people would think they had to laugh at it. Do you know what I mean? Just like, oh, Frank's so funny.
Come on over. Hey.
Come on over.
Hey. How long have we been on for?
I love singing in Italy. Hey. Rafael Varane has lifted the lid on his exit from Man United at the end of last season. I mean, if it's anything more than my contract ran out, they didn't give me a new one, I'll be absolutely stunned. At the start of last season... You do it. He lifted the lid on it. There you go. What's in there? Is him leaving Man United?
Oh.
Very nice. Let's see what's in that teapot you've got there. At the start of last season at United, I was already telling myself that I would have liked to finish there, to extend the adventure a little. It didn't happen. What? I would like to finish there, to extend the adventure, as in to finish at Manchester United.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you think?
I didn't know if you meant at the end of last season, I would like to finish there, as in didn't want to play anymore. As in, I'll finish there, I'm done now. To extend the adventure a little, it didn't happen. And the summer was very eventful. I was looking for something special, and that's how I found Como. With United, I finished a victory in the Cup, but I already knew that the club's project didn't suit me. Como was a project that stood out. It wasn't exotic, not financial, but humanly it made sense. And it still does, since I'm going to stay with them. I also wanted to play only once a week. Announcing his retirement last month, Varane confirmed he was staying with Como to focus on a non-playing role, which typically does tend to be your only way around when you have retired from playing, doesn't it? So he's going to be doing a non-playing role. Fair enough. It's a weird one, isn't it, Varane? He didn't seem that close to having to pack it all in. Is it a knee, completely blasted his knee type job that he's done?
He just keeps breaking down, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he's just not able to play regularly. And this was what did for us last season as well, because we lost Martinez, we lost Varane.
Yeah.
You saw the difference they both made in that FA Cup final. We don't win that FA Cup final without either of them.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the Varane. Yeah, I thought it said Varane. Yeah.
What's that mean?
Como. Oh, Valerie. Valerie. Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Like, come on over, Varane. Can we go back to the Tyrone Malacia one? This is fucking worse.
Como on over Varane.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
No.
I'm glad I didn't get it because I hate it now. I didn't. I
only got it because it explained it there. He put on a fucking note there to explain it to us.
Oh,
and
it's spelled Valerie wrong in the meantime.
Yeah.
It's a sad one with Varane, isn't it? Obviously, we've been over this. Great player. Physically, he wasn't quite there. And it seemed like mentally as well. He decided he was done, I think. He talked about his concussions. He talked about heading the ball a lot. He retired from international football. He was a player that was signalling everything that is, I'm coming to the end of my career now. Despite the fact that I'm only 31, I think, as he was at the time when he first started talking about these sort of things, there was obvious signs that he is looking at the end. And I think with most sports, football, and I think obviously people talk about with boxing and MMA and stuff in particular, because they're so risky, if you're focused on anything else, if you're not 100% in it, you're done, because there's someone who is. There's someone waiting in the wings who will do you, or who will take your place if you're not 100% in it. And I think we could see that coming a little bit. So I think, obviously, not from a financial perspective, because him as a person is more important, but it was the right decision not to extend it. He might not have done that same injury, but he's clearly, physically on the way out, which is a shame. But that's what happens to players, and he's had so many years at the top. You can't stay there forever, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really, really sad with Varane, because I think you pointed out last season, Joe, he really had a bad game.
Yeah.
Like, you can't put one hand if that. I know people say you can't one hand the amount of games he actually played, but he played quite a few games, and he didn't have hardly any of them where he was like, what's he doing?
No.
At a time when there was a lot of players who were playing for United, and you asked that question, and he went out on a massive high with a very good performance in a big game against Manchester City to help us win a trophy. I wish Varane well. I think he'll always be sort of well remembered. I know people will look at the injury record or whatever, but I think if he ever came back to Old Trafford for whatever reason, he'd get a very good reception. And he had a good rapport with the fans at the games. He was always giving it all that at Old Trafford and all that. And he was one of the last ones down the tunnel, and he always sort of giving it the fist pump and all that. I think he kind of bought into it, and people like the fact we got him from Real Madrid. We got a 28-year-old from Real Madrid. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? A player that was one of the best defenders on the planet at the time as well. There was a sort of aura around him because of that. So it is a shame. Goes to Como, gets injured straight away, and then has to retire. It just goes to show, though, doesn't it, that there was no point in us trying to keep him, because his career's literally done. Hopefully, he can move into his non-playing role and do very well. Did we get anything on the Menu stuff? Is there anything on that?
I can really find that one source, Jay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too big on that in a minute with the Menu thing. Like I say, it's someone that is relatively reliable, but I can only see the one person speaking about it in a minute, so we'll try and get that stood up. We're back in the morning for the news anyway, so if there is anything to that, we can get it covered. Is that it? Is that the lot?
That's everything. Great.
Joseph, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all your hard work, I appreciate it.
Cheers, sir.
I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're going to be back tomorrow. Going to be me, Joseph, Stephen Howson for Off the Bar. I'll be back here in the morning with the news. We're going to be live from the studio. Make sure you go and check out Joe and producer Ethan on the Sloppy Joe's podcast. You know where to find them too. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Moy. This has been Paddock Live. Thanks for watching.